Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of our Food for Thought series with Dr. MJ. Now today we have a little bit of a surprise because Dr. MJ believes that we are going to be sharing a conversation that we had about her selection, who is the one and only Toni Morrison. But before we get to that, we would like to take a moment to celebrate Dr. MJ because she is more than deserving to be included in our celebration of Black History Month. Now, as some of you know, she has completely volunteered her time to being a part of this series. I reached out to her in January, pretty sure I was crying, and I said to her, I need to find a way to, for us to just celebrate this coming month, but make it memorable, make it everlasting. And I remembered that she had created this beautiful book for my son, Apollo, so that he would always have a connection to Black authors. And this book includes the A to Z of authors that she has selected for this series as well as a few others. So it was very, very touching, and I was so honored to learn that she was willing to offer her time each week. She's been doing 5 letters at a time with me, and I've learned more than I could have ever imagined. So we are very grateful to Dr. MJ, and we reached out to her brother, Paul, who has a few words to share about one of the many reasons why the letter M is for Dr. MJ. Take a look.
So it looks like the letter M is going to go to the one and only my little sister, MJ. I have so much I could say about her. Most importantly, she's always been an inspiration to me. And I was talking to Lillian earlier, and just kind of remembering some of the awesome moments in my life where MJ's been a huge influence, especially with my reading. She introduced me to people like, Richard Wright, Toni Morrison, bell hooks. One of the quotes that she threw my way back when we were younger, I think I must have been 17, 18 years old. She's about 3-4 years younger than me. A quote that's sat with me forever is, live life with a love ethic, which is, of course, bell hooks. And that's been one of kind of the quotes that I've really, that has really impacted me. Anyway, MJ, growing up, she read books like nobody. She was in constant search for information, devoured information like nobody I've ever met. When she was in high school and her friends wanted to go out, she would refuse. And her excuses were always, I gotta get some books. And on her way home from the library, which she packed her bags with, she also had another stack of books in her hands, and she'd be walking with a basketball on the other hand, just dribbling away. That was the image anybody could tell you of Dr. MJ as a youngster. She would finish those books that weekend, loves basketball, very, very strong at basketball, very, very strong. And of course, one of the books that she gave me is at that same time, I feel like we really connected when we were 16, 17, 18. She gave me Siddhartha, a book that really, again, impacted my life and changed how I looked at the world, the idea of Eastern philosophy, Taoist philosophy, really has, that's another thing that's impacted my life in a big way. I think that, I don't know that I would be who I am without my little sister, go figure. It should be the other way around, but apparently in this case, this one has way too much of an impact on people that it can't be helped. And we're also very grateful for her, of course. The way that, interacting with MJ, when you speak to her, it's one of the most, she never does just plain pleasantries. So if you're gonna sit down to have a conversation with MJ, it's gonna be a serious one, and it's gonna be full of intention, and you're gonna learn a lot from each other, and you're always gonna walk away with your mind shifted somehow. brilliant, educator, the professor of social work. She's a brilliant activist, always, she's always in support of the people that are marginalized, like ourselves, of course, and has never shied away from standing up and speaking up. And works, I've never seen anybody that works as hard as her and as intentionally as her. So I'm super grateful to have the one and only MJ Rwigema as my little sister and my teacher. Have a lovely day.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We are back with our series Food for Thought with Dr. MJ, and we are on the letter M. So who do we have featured for the letter M?
Toni Morrison.
Yes, of course. Must be. I can't think of another M.
Toni Morrison.
All right, so what quote did you pick from one of her incredible books, and what was the reasoning for it?
Okay, I would have actually liked to share from the novels. So these are, funny enough, three of my favorite novels all in one book. Mm-hmm. But I just decided to go with her book of essays. And I picked it at random, but it fits on the themes that we've been discussing, especially since we're following up after Audre Lorde. And we've talked a bit about Black feminism. So the quote, I'm going to read it and then I'll tell you what I think about it and how it's relevant. How about that? Okay. So she says, this is, I guess, a speech she's giving to a university that's just for women, or college that's just for women. And she says, the essay is called Cinderella's Stepsisters. She says, I'm alarmed by the violence that women do to one another. Professional violence, competitive violence, emotional violence. I'm alarmed by the willingness of women to enslave other women. I'm alarmed by a growing absence of decency on the killing floor of professional women's worlds. You are the women who will take your place in the world, and where you can decide who shall flourish and who shall wither. You will make distinctions between the deserving poor and the undeserving poor, where you can yourself determine which life is expendable and which life is indispensable. Since you will have the power to do it, you may also be persuaded that you have the right to do it. As educated women, the distinction between the two is first-order business. I'm suggesting that we pay as much attention to our nurturing sensibilities as to our ambition. You're moving in the direction of freedom, and the function of freedom is to free somebody else. That gets quoted often. You're moving towards self-fulfillment, and the consequences of that fulfillment should be to discover that there is something just as important as you are, and that just as important thing may be Cinderella or your stepsister. In your rainbow journey towards the realization of personal goals, don't make choices based only on your security and your safety. Nothing is safe. That is not to say that anything ever was, or that anything worth achieving ever should be. Things of value seldom are. It is not safe to have a child. It is not safe to challenge the status quo. It is not safe to choose work that has not been done before, or to do old work in a new way. There will always be someone there to stop you. But in pursuing your highest ambitions, don't let your personal safety diminish the safety of your stepsister. In wielding the power that is deservedly yours, don't permit it to enslave your stepsisters. Let your might and your power emanate from that place in you that is nurturing and caring. Women's rights is not only an abstraction, a cause, it's also a personal affair. It's not only about us, it's also about me and you, just the two of us. There's a lot there.
So the day I open a center for women, that is going to be stretched across the wall and beautifully painted. Why did you choose it? I mean, I can guess all the reasons, but why did you select this quote?
This one was totally random.
You see that? Not everything is completely all the way thought through, right?
Yeah, this one I was like, I didn't have time to go through the novels, which actually for me, number one, she's a novelist, but she's also a great essayist. Mm-hmm. She was okay, let me just tell you the first thing that inspires me about Toni Morrison. She did not write her first book until age 39. So it gives me a lot of hope. But before she ended up writing and then she ended up winning the Nobel Prize for Literature, which is the hardest thing you can possibly get. And she's one of the people that they've banished in the American book bannings. Toni Morrison, before she published her own work, she was an editor and went out of her way to get all of these Black women writers published. So she paved a way to get tons of other people published, and she did it very intentionally. So there's a picture out there somewhere with Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, like a whole group of these African American writers that did amazing work. But it's because they supported each other, which is actually a good segue into this quote, because she's basically talking about going back to the theme of we live in a society that's stratified. People are pit against each other, right? I'll give you, if you're a poor white person or middle class white person, you get white privilege and you're going to be treated better as long as we discriminate against people of color, right? Racialized people, Black people. If you are a man, we're going to give you authority, status, prestige over women, and that's what you're going to get, whether you're Black, white, whatever. Here's a place where you get to be better than somebody else, right? So she's saying women are pitted against each other, and in a patriarchal society, and in many ways, because they're pitted against each other, women will enforce patriarchy. So women will enforce patriarchy, will enforce domination over other women for them to get a little piece for themselves. So she's addressing a group of women graduates, many of whom, and if we go back to Frederick Ivory's case, where he was saying, those of you who go to universities are going to be the executioner of Marie Angelique, and now he's talking to middle class Black people. You're going to be set up to make decisions about poor Black people. You're going to be set up to dictate their lives. So she's saying the same thing. You're going to be in positions where you're going to get to make decisions about other women. And remember, in your quest for ambition or power or safety, because for a lot of people, safety and security is this, and they're not conscious of it, is I have power over somebody else, so I'm safe because, I'm not of the group that's being attacked, and they reproduce that. So that's what she's saying, and it folds well with Audre Lorde, because Audre Lorde's Black feminism and Bell Hooks' Black feminism, a lot of it was a response to mainstream first wave, second wave white feminism, which fought for the rights of white women, to get jobs, have careers, to have reproductive rights, to not be oppressed, to have the same wages, let's say, as men. But in the process, they ignored the ways in which Black women get discriminated against, right? Which is gender and race at the same time. And Black women make a lot less than white women. Black women, their voting rights are disrupted, not because they're women, but not just because they're women, but because they're women and they're Black, right? So Audre Lorde critiqued a lot of that. There's a little bit of that critique in here with Toni Morrison. Bell Hooks definitely critiqued a lot of that. But there's no advancement for women if you don't fight for all women across the board: race, gender, sexuality, gender identity, etc. And
I feel like I'm going to take that part that you just said and just repeat it 50 times when we edit this video, because I feel like that is what I think it's ignored a lot every single International Women's Day or month or year, whatever it is. Like I just feel like it's something that needs to be echoed.
Yeah. So I think that's what she's. You're not going to get rid of patriarchy unless you support all women.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't be a part of it. Don't.
Women are the biggest. I would say Black people are huge enforcers of anti-Black racism. The ones that get handpicked for special privileges, right? And so some of the most oppressive patriarchal societies are led by women. Some of the, women being like slut shaming other women.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. The drill. So Toni Morrison is critiquing that in that passage, and I like the part where she says, and this gets quoted a lot, the function of freedom is to free somebody else, right? The function of self-fulfillment is to recognize that everybody matters and everybody also deserves self-fulfillment, right? and all of these people saying like, nothing that matters is actually safe. So, your silence won't save you. And
that was my favorite part, was the protection of yourself. Is like, I can't remember the exact words that she used, but she said, don't mistaken the protection of yourself for as a safety. Like, don't, I can't remember, I don't have the book in front of me, but
yeah,
that specific part spoke the most to me. I think it's
choice is based only on your security and your safety. Nothing is safe.
Yes. That's it. That is our letter M. Couldn't have picked anyone else except for maybe, I don't know, Mama. That's the only other name we could think of. So Toni Morrison, highly deserving the letter M in our Food for Thought series. We'll be back.